Hello everyone. So today I thought I would go over how to practice your level design. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to go into Fab and download something called Game Animation Sample. What this will do is it'll give us mechanics. If you already have mechanics, that's fine. You can go ahead and use yours instead of what we're going to go with. I'm going to use this to be able to show people how to practice your mechanics. So once you download it, it'll give you this little button right here that says Create Project. Click it, and you'll go ahead and make the project. Alright, so once you create the project and load into it, it'll bring you into this level right here. So this is important because it gives you these little cubes that have numbers on them for their scale. What that allows us to do is if we hit play over here, we have the system we can run around with. Jump, jump, and it also gives us all these animations. So the reason that this is nice is it gives us a bit of mechanics to play with. And we know from the numbers on front of it how big it is, and that 2.5 is the largest we can do. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click and create our own little level. I already created one, it's called level test. We're going to go into it and then go ahead and use your directional, exponential height, fog, sky, and atmosphere, and light, and volumetric clouds to create your little sky. Let's go ahead and hold shift, hit 5, or click right here and go to modeling mode and go to cube grid. This is a really powerful tool, a little bit more advanced. So we're going to click, drag across, and hit E, and it allows us to place boxes along this grid. So there are important things to know when using this grid. E is up, Q is down. If I hold control, I can click and drag up and down, and it'll go with it. So if you see this grid, there's a few things you should know about. If I drag over here, it changes the rotation. So now I'm placing at an angle instead of flat across, and so on and so forth with the rotation. All you have to do is play around to get used to it, but it's a very effective tool to build almost anything that you want. But it's really used for prototyping real fast on your levels. So now that I've got a little flat plane, this is how big my little level area is going to be for testing. What I want to do to be able to get the scale proper is I'm going to go to my third person. I recommend you go to your third person or your character, drop them in to really get a scale of how big your character is compared to the area. So I know the character now is 1 block large, so that allows me to keep things in mind. So what I'm going to do is go to cube grid, and I'm going to leave them right there. I want to create a little alley scene, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a little wall right here, and it's going to come across right over here as well. Now I know that my character can only go along this path. So where I go from here is I'm going to create 2 buildings, so that way they have to have an alleyway between them. So if I drag over here, that'll be a decent sized little building. Make it a little bit larger than that fence. There we go. It's a little too tall compared to the character. That's better. And now we're going to go over here. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to create a little bit smaller building to add a bit of dynamics to the scales. You know, maybe this building's a little bit shorter. There we go. So now we got a real dynamic scale to everything. And once we go over here, you'll probably notice that there's a little bit of extra gap here. Well, normally if you're doing an alleyway, there's also roads. So what I'm leaving right here is this is the little walkway you can come across. But maybe you're being chased by someone and you're not able to go that way. Or maybe the character's walking down this path and they decide they want to jump over this fence. So there's a few cool things we could do with this. I can look at it sideways. Now I can grab onto this wall right here from the side, and boom, now I've created a little window hole. Boom. I can go however I want with it. I can really play around. I can create a little door right here. I only got to do 2 blocks tall because I know how big the character is. So what if we want a little spot for them to sit under in the rain? What if I can click here, I can hit E to bring it out, press Z, and I can click these little circles that show up on the corners, and I can hit Q to bring it back. And now we've created this little area that sits over the door for the rain. So we're going to use this to scale down the grid. Put a big old window right here. Maybe it's a bit of a fancy window. And we drag down, drag down, drag down, drag across, drag across. Now I got this little window right here. And if you want to create a little frame to notice, you can just go there, extrude, 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 and extrude. There you go. Now you got this little window right here. So, what if we want a little fence for them to jump across, which would be our main goal for the mechanics. They run through here, then they jump over a fence. Well, so what we're going to do is now we've got this area built out, we're going to come over and use our level traversable block, which is in our level prototyping. We're going to drop it in. We're going to spin it around so that way we can see the number we're using. And we know that the highest to go is 2.5. Well, we want a high number that we can kind of jump over. So we're going to go up to about 2. And we're going to drag it across. The reason this is fine is we're actually going to eventually replace this with another mesh. So when we hit play, the fence is over here to block over people from going through the alleyway. So our character runs over and they jump and they climb over the fence and they get to the other side. So this gives us a little mechanic to play with. Well, what if we wanted the fence to be a lot larger? What if they've built it nearly the size of the building? Now it's too large for the player to just climb in. Well, that's when you take other little ideas. So if you want to be able to really make it dynamic, and that should make it high enough for it to be able to climb up. So now the player will run over here and they'll be like, oh, okay. Climb, 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 and you're down. So even cooler is if we get it to the right size, we shrink it down, we put it back to where it was. If the player knows it's only like 1 meter, 1 meter, 3 meters. So now it should, if we come over here, climb, climb, hop right over. So now we can take that mesh, and because we know that it works, so we're gonna hide the visibility of this mesh. Visibility, hide it. We know we need to hit this height, so we can drag in our fence right here. Make sure it's aligned with your little lines right here. And what we can actually do to further this is we can remove the collision off this. Collision. No collision. Because we don't really need to use the fence's collision because it's got the cube inside of it. And we don't want it to mess up with the cube's collision. So, as for these, you can find your own little meshes to put in. You can take like crates, little boxes, so on and so forth. And just find a way to build to get over. So now that we've got a fence in there, looks a bit nicer. We should be able to run over here, climb up, and hop over. There we go. We just prototyped, tested it, and replaced the mesh. So then we would go through and start replacing the buildings and actually placing the little walls there. But what if I don't want to go across this way? What if I don't want them to traverse over? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to keep the little traversable block here so I know exactly how high 1 meter is. We're going to go into create, click the cube grid, go to cube grid. We're going to reset the size to what it originally was. We're going to go over here, scale up, up. There we go. Now we know what our scale is supposed to be. And we can hit accept. We can delete our little traversable cube here. Okay, so what we're going to do is go back into cube grid, click along here, cube. Okay, so it works. So hit Z, click, click, cube, cube, and accept. Of course, you would do a little bit more than just that, but if we have that, now we can make sure that this system works, that we got the right level going. We can run over here, and we can jump over their fence. Boom. Now I've created this little pretty cool system. Alright, so what if we have an area that kind of elevates? What if we want some stairs in here and stuff? Well, you can go through and create stuff like that too. And we're actually going to drop down, drop down, drop down, go up, go up, go up. And we're gonna go across here. We're gonna shrink it a bit actually. Go to 4, hit Q. And it's honestly just as simple as going through and drag across, Q. Of course, I'm going a little exaggerated with the scale of this. So now that we've got this little bland staircase built, of course, it's not the prettiest looking. I'm not trying to make it look pretty, I'm trying to make it effective. So now I got a staircase. I can run up the stairs, and then I can run over here. But, if you remember, we have the little cube here. What if I click here, go into cube grid, and then I build a nice, interesting little area right here. So we're going to go back in here. We're going to unhide that static mesh because we're back to using it. Visible, hit play. Alright, so the character starts over here. They got this nice little stairway. Of course, like I said, it would be shorter. You run up here. You get to see the little beauty of the building over here. You come over. They see there's a little path right here. They come up, and they jump across. There we go. Now we've given them direction. We give them a bit of location and everything. So fixing little errors like this is actually pretty simple. So you just click. Maybe I have a little wall right here. So I can just drag across. And I can just, well, let's go a little bit more. Drag across. And I can just, boom, it matches my old wall. Now I've got a much nicer little area over here. So these are all simple little things you can do. What if I make it a little dark area? What if I haven't told my player that they can climb yet? And they don't know that this is the path. They come across here, they think, oh, it's a dead end. Well, that's when you take something as simple as, like, I'll click here, Shift 5, go into Cube Grid, and I'm going to create, alright, so now I've created a little spot right here. But what that's going to be for me is I'm going back to Selection, Lights, put a little spotlight right here. And we're not going for the most beautiful looking area right now. We're going for functionality. That is the big part of the design process. So we want it to be functional. Now I can see this little dark alleyway. I've got these stairs. I don't know where to go. Well, then I got this little focus on these little lights over here. And these boxes over here. Now I know, oh, maybe I can do something with them. And I find my way to get across. Maybe you want to be a little bit more subtle with it. Okay. So now we've created a little area. We've got a little block out going. When we hit play, the light will adjust unless you got your post-processing set up. So now we've got this little alleyway we can come through. We walk over. See the windows and such. We see this light directly over it. It's like, oh, well, this is important. Now we gave them the idea of, hey, before you've even played, there's a system set up. So when you come up around, you see that little spot right there. You're like, oh, okay, so I need to go over there and I can climb that. The player has been told without ever saying anything that there is an area there that they can climb. And that's about it. I just wanted to go into this in a small bit of detail, but with all this information, you should be able to get started and practice, practice, practice to become a master at level design. Of course, I didn't go through the stages of just going through and maybe drawing the map. So just sitting there and drawing the map might give you a great idea, and then you can go through and use the cube grid to block it out, and then you can drop in your little mechanics to work with everything. Maybe you've got a door there, a door over here that you need to be able to go through, or if I click it, I can actually go into Shift 5, go to cube grid. I have it shrunk down already, so I'm going to drag over and hit Q. And what this has done is it's created a little door slot that they just can't get through. So it shows them, oh, hey, this door slot isn't available to use. So what if I drag this down and have a little light sitting over the door. Well, I could also set this to 1, 2, maybe even 0.3. And it's like, oh, hey, there's a little door here. And they try it, doesn't work. They look over here, it's like, oh, climb over. But yeah, a lot of this to people who've done it for a while seems very obvious. Like, of course you would do these things, but there's a lot of people who think you just go into a level, make it look pretty, and everything works. But then you don't get in mind of placing things and the thought of how your mechanics work. And that's far more important than making it look pretty, because it needs to look beautiful, but it also needs to be functional. So that's all I wanted to go over through today. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Other than that, I hope you had a beautiful day.